Hey, it's Mazzy, and welcome back to It's the Music Stupid number 173 or 4. It's one of those. Numbers don't matter, right? It doesn't. These are videos where I showcase 5 records. Sometimes there's a theme to them, sometimes not at all. And it's the Music Stupid, just to remind you if you don't know, if you're new here. It's really a mantra to myself. It's about the music first. Going back to a James Carville mantra from the 1992 Bill Clinton campaign, where you need to kind of repeating yourself, talk about the economy. We're talking about the music here. We like good sound. We like good records or CDs or any way you want to listen to music, but the music, obviously, first. So I picked 5 records that are sort of summer-y. Now, these aren't all specifically summer records. Like some have a cut here more than others. I'm going to start out with one that to me is one of the greatest summer singles of all time from 1966, and that is Love and Spoonful, Summer in the City. Hot town, summer in the city, back of my neck getting dirty and gritty. And this one has that hype sticker there, Summer in the City and Rain on the Roof. It could be basically the story of Seattle, right? Although we're in the 80s here right now. We get hot summers. People don't realize how hot the summers are here. Not compared to the South, not crazy. 80s is about the average summer. We hit 90s occasionally, but that's it. But warmer than San Francisco, that would be in the 60s and 70s in their foggy summer sometimes. Although climate change, seriously, has warmed up San Francisco and Seattle year-round pretty much. But let's talk about Love and Spoonful. I think they're a band that should have a better legacy on them. They were a great singles band. Despite what some people think, some ignorant people out there, they had a lot of big hit singles. They did. And their albums are good, but they don't have the consistency in their albums that you have an album feel. Now, these albums were produced by Eric Jacobson, who years later into the 1980s would go on and produce most of the first, 5, 6 Chris Isaak records, among other things. He produced some Sopwith Camel as well. Hello, hello. Remember that? And so this is Hums of the Love and Spoonful from 1966. And of course, it has that song. In fact, the final song on the album, Hot Town, Summer City. What a great explosion at the beginning of that. And I tell you, the 45, this is one of those records where the 45, hands down, probably is the best version you'll ever hear. Just on a friggin' small record player, jacked up, listening to that song. It's just a powerful song. It's a great band. You got John Sebastian, who would do a solo career later. You got Zalyanowski. You got is it Jerry Butler, and what's the other guy's name? I should have prepared for this, but I didn't. I apologize for that. But MGM, Kama Sutra Records. But you know, all these hits they had, Daydream, and If You Make Up Your Mind, A Younger Girl. They had a lot of great singles from 65, 66, into 67, and then that's pretty much it. Of course, John Sebastian would reappear, and he became sort of a iconic wearer of tie-dyed denim at Woodstock, and then obviously some great solo albums. And he kind of got a little screwed in the beginning. That first solo album, there was a mix-up with MGM Records, his label here, and his new label, Reprise Records, and they both put out the same album at the same time. 2 different labels, 2 different covers. But then he would go on and do a series of kind of pretty fun records, and of course, had even another hit with Welcome Back, Kotter, the theme song to a TV show. But he's better than that, and I've seen him. He's a great folk artist, coming from the East Coast with the with John Phillips and the Mamas and Papas, and a lot of that kind of folk scene that would, some of them gravitate and relocate in Laurel Canyon, Los Angeles area, and the West Coast, and the blues thing that was happening. So there's a bit of a jug band feel to some of the songs on this album and in their band. Coconut Grove is a beautiful thing. Nashville Cats is a great song on here. Very kind of country flavor thing. Before, a lot of kids my age at the time weren't really into that country thing. I think I appreciate this music, that music, those other tracks, a lot more now than I did then. But I think they need more love, and it's really unfortunate they didn't continue and really develop as album makers when all these artists were the Beatles and the Stones and Byrds even, and all these other bands, Buffalo Springfield were happening. They're, to me, remind me of like a Buffalo Springfield where they were tight, although they had bigger hits than the Buffalo Springfield, who had, a handful, or not even a handful for what it's worth, maybe Bluebird, hums of the Lovin' Spoonful for this, It's the Music Stupid. Now a record that came out, I'm thinking 6-7 years ago, and I like this record, and it had a buzz at the time, and it's just a really kind of lovely record, and it's Billy Joe, we're not going to put an L there, okay? Billy Joe and Nora. So it's Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day and Nora Jones. And, she's also a guitar player, not just a piano player. And what this is a record inspired by the Everly Brothers. Of course, it's literally called Foreverly. And it's great harmonies of songs inspired by the Everly Brothers, songs from our daddy. Songs our daddy taught us, to be exact. And it's got a great, folk songs and murder ballads. And, in terms of murder ballads, Barbara Allen is one there too. But Kentucky and Down in the Willow Garden, another beautiful folk song. I think that was also covered in the early 70s by Art Garfunkel. One of those perennial folk classics that's been done by so many people. Roving Gambler, a long time gone. But it has that feel. I mean, very much you could compare this to the Robert Plant Krauss album, Alison Krauss album. That's kind of a rootsy, folksy album. Those are better records, but this is an excellent record too. So great combination, and I love their harmonies. They really pair well together. And this is Billy Joe and Nora Foreverly. And this was on what label? Reprise Records. How appropriate is that? Because the Everly Brothers were on Warner Brothers, I guess, Warner 7 back then. Rachel Sweet, Fool Around. She leaves high school because she gets signed to Stiff Records. Young girl from, I believe she's from originally Ohio, left high school to do this. She had done some earlier country records, and then, of course, discovered and picked up by Stiff. And, when this album came out, she went on the Stiff Records tour in the UK, backed by the band, The Records, that pop band, that really hooky band that did Teen-A-Rama and Starry Eyes. I love that power pop band. That's really a kind of upbeat thing. But this is a really fun record. This is the original UK copy. Her records would come out, I believe, on Columbia in this country, slightly different configuration. After this, she didn't do much, but she had a hit with a cover here of Baby, B-A-B-Y, co-written by Porter and Isaac Hayes. That was a Carla Thomas hit, but what a fantastic version. This is like a teen version. This is, before the teen mall singers in a way, but she got some gravitas for a young, 16-year-old girl or something when she made this record. But there's some great stuff on here that crosses over from pop and country music. The record closes out with an Elvis Castell original called Stranger in the House. That was a song that Elvis wrote to collaborate with the country singer George Jones. But I quite like this record. I think it's a good record. It holds up. It's a fun record, and it's a cool summary record. So this is Rachel Sweet's Fool Around from 1978, right in the midst when it seems like Stiff Records could do no wrong. A lot of there was a period of time I was buying all the imports from Stiff. Reckless Eric and what's the guy, Julep? All those. Anyway, next, something a little different. And I love this record. I love most of her records in the 80s into the 1990s. And she sort of imploded. And this is Michelle Shocked. Short, sharp, shocked. She got kind of known because in the UK, Cooking Vinyl put out the Campfire tapes. These tapes she recorded, folk singer with a little country tinge to it. Was she from Texas, I believe? I think that's where she's from. But this photograph was hysterical. This was shot, I think, for the San Francisco Examiner newspaper. This is a shot of her at a protest in 1984, the Democratic Convention. It was a Democratic-Republican protest, and a newspaper snapped this, and she used this on the cover. Again, as I said, later she would implode. I don't want to get into that, which is unfortunate. She basically had a meltdown on stage. But there's a series of records she did on Mercury Records that are wonderfully recorded. Has a really good folk country vibe and really well-written songs. This beautiful song called Anchorage, obviously Anchorage, Alaska, just up north, up the hill from me here. It's just a beautiful song. Opening up with When I Grow Up, it's got a great vibe to it. It's got this great country feel. Her voice is soothing. The instrumentation is just really direct, and tight recordings in terms of a dryness there, not overly reverb, not overly produced. All the instrumentation is very dynamic. I'm talking now more about the sound and the music, but I just want to tell you that makes these records great, in this case especially. And the series of records she did for Mercury all are great, including that lo-fi campfire album, the first one that kind of got her known and got her attracted to these labels that produced her. Anyway, produced and arranged by Pete Anderson, who was a big part of these early Mercury records. I just think this is a fabulous record. I don't think this is an expensive record, so if you see this, pick it up and just kind of ignore her later indiscretions and just meltdowns, because it's great, wonderful music. And lastly, an artist that needs no introduction, and I just love the direction he went on this record. I don't know if it's totally different than what he was doing, but it was more of a pop, soulful record, upbeat, very joyous in a lot of ways. And that's Elvis Castell and the Attractions' Punch the Clock. Killer record, a different direction for Elvis. It's got this great song, Every Day I Write the Book, with these great backup soul singers. It's got a great rhythm to it. It's just a really kind of a cool, soulful, reggae-ish, but not really, a strut to it. And I just think it's a divine record. It was very different than what Elvis had been doing up to this. Side one ends with this amazing song that he wrote, one of his best written songs, called Shipbuilding. And I believe that is about the Falklands Wars, I understand, that whole thing. And it has this great trumpet solo by Chet Baker, and it's just magnificent. It opens up with this great horn-infused, kick-ass opening, TKO Boxing Day, that opens up side two. And it's just, it's a barn burner opener for side two, and I love that too. Charm School, The Invisible Man is probably one of my favorite records on here. There's a hook to it, a lot of hooks. I mean, Elvis is always great hooks. His lyrical content is always really interesting, and I think he's one of those songwriters that deserves way more attention. You know, he's had his ups and downs career-wise, but he's always been solid. He's never made a terrible record. But there were some records, like in the late 70s into the 80s, that I didn't latch onto initially right away. But over the years, as I matured, as I got older, and I went back to these, I realized, in a way, he was ahead of his audience, always wanting that kind of Buddy Holly bespectacle, angry young man. They wanted that thing, and they were getting something a lot more mature. And I think this is a good example of that. That's turned into a wonderful record over the years. King of Thieves also, The World and His Wife. Beautiful record. Elvis Costello's Punch the Clock with the Attractions from 1983. So it's the Music Stupid Summer E records. Of course, you can play these records any time of the year. So enjoy the music, and thanks for watching. Mazzy loves you.